I spend a lot of my time on this channel talking to you guys about the gear that I would recommend, but today I thought it would be interesting to instead talk about the gear that I would never actually purchase for myself and therefore wouldn't feel comfortable recommending. I want to preface this video by saying that it may not be down to the product having a lower quality or not being optically good or anything like that. It might be down to other factors such as size, application, and price, so definitely keep that in mind. The first L-mount lens I wouldn't recommend would be the Sigma 14-28 f2.8, and that's not because it has bad image quality or optical performance. In fact, it's actually a very good lens, and I stand by what I said about it in my earlier review of it a couple of years ago. Actually, the reason why I wouldn't recommend this lens is down to its weight, its size, and also that curved front lens element. Having a petal style lens hood permanently fixed to this lens, along with that curved bit of glass at the front, makes it increasingly hard to use standard filters with it, and that just makes it extremely cumbersome if you are shooting video outside, or it means you'd have to stop it down or try and find some other filtration method where you can essentially place a filter between the sensor itself and the lens mount, and that just means extra things to buy. The lens itself also weighs quite a lot, weighing in at 795 grams, making it heavier than the 16-28 f2.8 from Sigma and the Panasonic 16-35 f4S Pro. It's also twice the weight of the LUMIX 14-28mm, which only weighs 345 grams. If I had to choose any wide angle zoom lens for the L mount, it would probably be between the 16-28 f2.8 from Sigma and the LUMIX S Pro 16-35 f4. Both of those lenses are optically superb and they're nice and lightweight, meaning that they'll be easy to carry around with you, and they're also very easy to balance on gimbals. I know this next one's going to piss a lot of people off, but I'd find it extremely hard to recommend any of the Summicron lenses from Leica. Now, again, it's not because they're optically bad. In fact, they're some of the best lenses I've ever used optically, in the sense that the corner-to-corner sharpness is very good and they have zero chromatic aberration. They're also built extremely well with a full metal construction, and they're definitely made to stand the test of time. But the reason why I wouldn't recommend these lenses to anyone is ultimately because of the ridiculous price point. Most of the Summicrons sit anywhere between £4,200 to £4,600, and that's per lens. And that's just an insane amount of money to spend on a single prime lens, in my opinion. To put this into context, for the price of just one Summicron lens, you could get yourself a LUMIX 50mm f1.4S Pro, the 70-200 f2.8S Pro, and the 85mm f1.4 Art Series lens from Sigma, three of which are some of the best lenses I've ever tried for the L mount, and those can all be had for the price, again, like I said, of one Summicron lens. Or you could even buy every single one of the LUMIX S 1.8 primes, so that's 5 lenses in total, and you'd still have anywhere between £1,500 and £1,800 left to spare. So yeah, it's crazy. So even though I do think the Summicron lenses are fantastic quality lenses, I just don't think the quality warrants the price tag, and therefore I just would not buy one. This next one probably won't come as a shock to you guys, since I'm sure that 99.9% of people detest this lens with a passion, and that is the LUMIX 26mm f8 pancake lens that recently came out alongside the LUMIX S9. And when I first spoke about this lens on the channel, I said very positive things about it, and I still stand by the fact that it's a very fun lens to use. In fact, I still do use it myself from time to time, but the reason again why I would not recommend this lens is the price point, considering that this lens will cost you £219 if you buy it out of a kit. And I just think for a manual focus only fixed f8 lens that has a plastic lens mount, that's just an absurd amount of money to pay. However, if you can get it as part of a kit with an S9, for example, then go for it, because it is quite a fun lens to use. Just don't spend 200 quid on it. That's just ridiculous. I wouldn't recommend any of the Sigma APS-C lenses that are made for the L mount, simply because I genuinely think it's a waste of a full frame sensor. The L mount system is full frame, and I can understand why you might want to get APS-C lenses because of its, reduction in size or price, but I just don't think the Sigma APS-C lenses do any of that, to be honest, considering that the size isn't really much smaller than some of the full frame lenses, and the same goes for the price point too. You won't really save much money by buying an APS-C lens from Sigma, so therefore they're kind of redundant in my opinion. And while I'm currently burning my bridges with Sigma, another product that I wouldn't recommend is the Sigma FPL. Now, I did actually really enjoy using this camera when I had it in for testing. I think the image quality is superb, and it's really nice having a 61 megapixel high resolution full frame sensor in such a small form factor. But that being said, the actual operation and usability of that camera is just something that I can't get my head around, in the sense that the processing is very slow, the playback is super slow as well, and also the autofocus can be a bit hit and miss too. So I think ultimately the user experience when using that camera sort of leaves a lot to be desired, and also ergonomically speaking it's not that great as well. I think that if you're looking for a compact full frame L mount camera, then I'd recommend you get the LUMIX S9 over the Sigma FP cameras, simply because it's a more complete package. Another L mount camera that I'd find really hard recommending to you guys would be the Leica SL2-S, and that is actually a camera that I used to own. Now, of course, I was extremely impressed with the build quality, with the design, with the usability of that camera. I think the SL range of cameras are extremely pretty and very nice tools to use. They feel great in the hand and stuff. But when it comes down to the actual fundamental image quality, I was actually quite underwhelmed. Now, I'm not too sure if you've seen my Lumix versus Leica video, and if you haven't, I'll leave it linked in the cards up here. But essentially, that sealed the deal for me that all Leica cameras are Lumix cameras dressed up in a nice suit. And if you're planning on buying a Leica purely for its build quality, its weather sealing, and just the overall feel in the hand, then I totally get it. It's a really nice tool to have, and it will definitely stand the test of time. But in terms of image quality, it's definitely not the one. Therefore, I wouldn't recommend that anyone spends thousands of pounds on a camera body that has an outdated AF system and really no real upsides aside from the fantastic build quality and, of course, the coveted red dot. If anything in this video has triggered you, then that's totally fine. You can go ahead and comment down below, since it only helps with my engagement, but ultimately I'm only speaking from experience, since I have tried and tested all of these products that I've spoken about. And of course, I know that my opinions are going to be different from yours, and that's totally fine. That's life. And we also have to remember that we're just talking about cameras and camera tech here. It's not the be all end all. There's literally wars going on, so don't cry about it too much. If you're interested in seeing how Leica cameras shape up compared to Lumix cameras in terms of video, then you should go ahead and watch this one next, because I compared the Leica SL2-S to the Lumix S5 IIX, and you can see which camera you prefer the look of for yourself when shooting video.